Federal immigration agents in a Chicago suburb were confronted by a group of protesters over the weekend, leading to a tense and violent standoff that prompted gunfire and multiple arrests. The situation unfolded near the village of Broadview, Illinois, about 15 miles west of downtown Chicago, where agents from an enforcement unit were conducting routine duties. According to official reports, several civilian vehicles surrounded and blocked an unmarked government vehicle, preventing the agents inside from leaving. One of the cars reportedly struck the law enforcement vehicle, while another driver was seen carrying a semi-automatic firearm. In response to what they perceived as a direct threat, the agents fired defensive shots. No fatalities were reported, though one suspect was later treated for a non-life-threatening wound at a nearby hospital. Authorities identified one of the individuals involved as Marimar Martinez, a U.S. citizen who had been active in organizing demonstrations and allegedly shared private information about agents online. Another suspect, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, was arrested and charged with resisting and obstructing law enforcement. The confrontation was part of a broader wave of protests that had been taking place outside an immigration processing center in Broadview for several consecutive days. Over the course of the weekend, at least 10 people were detained by local and federal authorities. 5 of them were arrested during Saturday's clashes alone, as protesters continued to hurl smoke canisters, rocks and bottles at officers. The Department of Homeland Security described the event as a coordinated attempt to intimidate federal personnel. Officials stated that the agent's vehicle was disabled when its tires were slashed, forcing the officers to abandon it for safety reasons while being surrounded by demonstrators. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has since joined the inquiry, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois has confirmed that any assault or obstruction targeting federal officers will be prosecuted aggressively. Officials emphasized that the safety of law enforcement personnel remains the highest priority and that those responsible for violent acts will be held fully accountable. The protests stem from opposition to an ongoing federal operation known as Operation Midway Blitz, which focuses on apprehending undocumented immigrants with criminal backgrounds in the Chicago metropolitan area. The enforcement campaign has triggered backlash among local activists who accuse the government of using excessive force and targeting vulnerable communities. Political tensions have grown as state officials criticized the federal response. The governor of Illinois publicly condemned what he described as unnecessary militarization, opposing suggestions that the state's National Guard should be federalized or deployed to assist in immigration enforcement. He called such measures unconstitutional and contrary to American democratic values. In contrast, officials from the Homeland Security Department argued that additional tactical personnel were necessary to protect agents and public property after a series of violent confrontations. They accused local leaders of obstructing federal law enforcement operations and claimed that misinformation had fueled the unrest. The confrontation in Broadview represents one of the most serious escalations between federal immigration authorities and activist groups in recent years, highlighting a deepening divide over immigration policy, federal jurisdiction, and the limits of protest activity within local communities.